Good afternoon. Welcome to the Marion City Council work session for Tuesday, September 5th. You ready? Okay, first up is finance.
Yes, Your Honor. The first one I have started is number 4, and actually 4 and 5 are related. You should have a memo in your council packet addressing this issue. Finance has identified about $989,000 worth of items that we feel that we need to amend the budget for, things that are either a carryover or we're going to be spending some money on that wasn't in the initial budget. That list, I guess I won't go through them unless you want me to, but it kind of identifies each item. There's about 15 different items. And Thursday night will be the public hearing, and then assuming all is well, we will pass the resolution approving that budget amendment. Now, we will probably have another budget amendment in the spring, but we just decided, to go ahead and do this one now and not wait till spring. By law, we have to amend the budget as we spend the money. So,
okay. Any questions?
Number 6, we're going to be issuing some refunding bonds. This action here will be the next step that we take, which will set the sale date for in 2 weeks, or September 21st, and then approving the preliminary official statement. We're going to be refunding some bonds from 2009 that were issued, a couple issues back then. Should save us a couple $100,000 in interest, but this is just the next step to actually set the sale date. On the 21st, Tiana Pooler will probably still be here again. We'll have the sale that morning, and then she'll report the results to you that evening and let you answer any questions that you might have. And number 7
So the refunding bonds are to refund currently existing bonds?
That's correct. These are refunding bonds issued back in 2009.
And it's for the purpose of saving money on interest?
Correct.
Okay.
Refund them at a lower interest rate.
Okay.
Kind of refinancing your house mortgage. It's the same idea.
Okay. Thank you.
And then tomorrow we are going to be finalizing the sale and obtaining the proceeds on our 2017 A bonds. And associated with those bonds, our financial consultant went ahead and sent us a bill for those bonds. So this is just approving the payment to her for the first set of issuances.
I have a question on that. Now, that's added to the total amount of the bonds, correct? That's $17,000?
When bonds are issued, there's some amount set aside for issuance costs.
This is above, or is this included in what the bonds were written for?
This would be part of what the bonds are written for.
Okay, so actually...
This isn't going to increase the amount of the bonds that we're selling.
There's not an increase? Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay, any questions on those or any other items on the finance portion of the agenda? Yes.
Yeah, I think we all got the letter from Joe Pearson. I would like to receive and file that on Thursday.
Did I receive it?
I'm sure you did. It's in regards to the fireworks.
Okay.
And
I
I
haven't
would like
seen
to
it.
receive and file that on Thursday.
Okay. Well, okay. Okay, if there's nothing further for finance.
Oh, no, that's right. I don't know if it's sinuses or...
All right, thank you, Your Honor. We'll start with number 2 under public service. This is a resolution approving the purchase of roadway signs from Iowa Prison Industries not to exceed $21,500. Put this in the council packet. If you drive around Marion, you've noticed that we've held off on replacing a lot of the large overhead street markers that are mounted to the mast arms. Reason why is that we wanted to get a new profile for those, incorporate the brand. The branding committee has gone ahead and done that. They've identified this marker to be replaced throughout the city. We have about 21 intersections that we're looking at that this will be replaced with. This will include all the overhead mast arm street markers. Each intersection, we're looking at 4 blades per each that we'll replace. Cost of the blades varies anywhere from $50 to $300. Depends on the street name. Longer the mast arm, or longer the name of the roadway, obviously the more expensive it gets. So we'd like to move forward with this yet this year, get these up before winter. We've probably been looking at this for the past 3 years. We've held off on replacing them until we can get a new uniform marker. So any questions on that?
Questions?
So the uptown markers will be different, street signs, right?
Now, the uptown markers will stay, the new black ones.
Yeah,
Is that what
that'll-
you're referring- So those will stay.
Okay.
Pretty much all the remaining ones where we have the green, I should say the green marker, they do need to get replaced. I believe back in 2006, we have new federal sign reflectivity requirements. That's part of our sign program. We have to replace them so often. The green markers are pretty old. You could drive around town and tell. So we need to get them changed. So
I'm sorry, how many did you say were getting replaced?
I believe we have 21 intersections, 4 each at each intersection. So we'll have about 44 street markers.
So all intersections where
Pretty
street
much,
lights.
except for the new ones like the uptown
Right.
street markers. We don't have a lot of newer street markers, even the ones out like on, I believe, Tama, South 22nd Street. Those are our newest intersections. We still need new markers for those. Since we're putting that road in through RMR, we still have to order them. So we're going to go ahead and do them all. Just get them done with.
Okay.
Okay? Excellent. Moving on to number 3, discussion regarding structural assessment program for signalized intersections. Just give you some background. Every year, public service, we do routine maintenance on our signalized intersections. Includes cabinet maintenance as well as pole inspections. This past year, and you got this information in your packet as well, we have come across some significant corrosion items within our inspection program. Most notably East Post Road and 100. That's where these are located at. And then also on 35th Street and Business 151. Those are 2 intersections that we're starting to get concerns about. We have an outside company that comes in, performs inspections. They do a lot of testing with the poles. This is the preliminary results that we've gotten back. From this point forward, what we're going to do is recommend bringing them back in to do more of an in-depth study. This will provide us some options on remedying this situation. As of right now, they have expressed concerns about these structures. Now, about 10 years ago, we were in this situation with the downtown. The poles kind of went a little too long over the scheduled replacement, and what happened, they started falling over. We don't want that to happen, and so our objective right now to bring them back in. If there's anything we can do, such as field repairs, we'll do them, but we want to bring this to the council's attention because we feel that we better bump these up in replacements. These are scheduled in the CIP. I'm not sure how much longer we can get life out of these. These are old cast iron poles. They're not galvanized, therefore they are susceptible to a lot of corrosion. So from this point on, we're going to get the inspection company back here. I'll probably come back to council with some direction on these, whether or not we got to replace the poles or whether or not we can do any repairs. So the point of this is just to get you informed that we have some items to deal with.
Okay. Did you say that in the past some fell over?
Yes, before the intersections in downtown were replaced, I think we had 3 fall over on us, I believe. If I remember right, Joe, you might have been here.
I know the one by Giving Tree. I know
Yep.
that.
Yep.
And there was one
Okay. Wow.
somewhere else uptown.
Yep.
I don't remember the 3rd one, but at least 2 that I remember.
Yep. I will say that the intersection at 35th and 7th, that is the oldest intersection in the city. That's older than the intersections downtown that fell over. So we're getting kind of nervous about these. We want to get them addressed. So from this point forward, we're not sure what the cost would be to get these replaced and or fixed, but let the council know that it needs to be addressed. So.
Probably to replace it, you're gonna need to redo the foundation as well, won't you?
I know that here at 35th, Mike, I think you're doing engineering's doing an RFP for intersection designs. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have an RFP out right now to do an intersection study of 10th and 8th and 35th there. So there's a possibility that signalized intersection may not be the best alternative, but we'll have to do the traffic study to determine what's the best solution in that case.
Yeah, okay.
I know that these footings specifically, yeah, it'd be difficult to put new poles in these footings. As for the rest of them, we're comfortable utilizing the footings if we need to, especially on East Post and 100. That's not that old. We can just essentially get a new pole and put them on there.
Right.
So
How long till the company can come back out to inspect them again?
this week,
Okay.
yeah. So
And then speaking of 35th and 7th intersection, I noticed the other day that the red flags on the no right turn on red
yes,
are just clear now.
yeah,
They should probably replace
yeah, we
red
probably
again.
should. Yeah. They tend to. They're no longer there at all.
No, they're there. They're just
faded.
they're faded.
Yeah.
They're not red.
They're not red anymore. They're clear.
It happens. It happens. So from this point forward, we'll keep the council briefed. We got to take action here. We're hoping that we can find a solution. If not, we'll be back. So, any questions on that?
Okay?
No. Move on to number 4. I handed out copies of this. Wanted to have a brief discussion around the schedule for the Eco-Industrial Park, specifically Phase 1. Now that we're moving forward with grading and utility installations, kind of wanted to give the council a rundown of how we see this coming together, if the council's comfortable with moving forward with it. Really what we're focusing on right now is Phase 1 of the development. That includes the proposed maintenance facility, compression equipment for the compressed natural gas, as well as the fleet. As we move forward, we'll get into Phase 2. That's the retail fueling component. We'll get into that into great detail, as well as Phase 3, the material recovery facility. And then distributed generation, that's much of the solar and some of the renewable energies that we're proposing. That really will take place as we move through each phase. That's dedicated as Phase 4. I gave the council a pretty in-depth history of how we got to Phase 1. It really comes down to when we got our agreement with Mid-Am. That's for the utilities extension agreement. Before, we did not have the capacity, or I should say the natural gas capacity to even look at this project. So ever since last year, November 3rd, when we executed that agreement, now we have the opportunity to really move forward and aggressively. Since that point, I included all the legislation, all the action we have to take to get to this place and time. You're welcome to look forward or look through that. But from here on out, focusing on where we're going to go now. In September, we have started both the grading and site improvements. Rachi's out there right now. They have mobilized. What we're looking at right now is potential project delivery concepts. We're looking at what we call a contract manager at risk. Not going to go that into detail today, but that's something we would like to talk about with the council next time. And then we want to put ourselves in a position for the council to be comfortable to look at all the financial models. So next council meeting, we'll start to go into this in more detail. If council members want any more information from me, don't hesitate to ask. I'd be happy to go over anything. And then in October, we'll probably bring the proposed design improvements to the council for review. At that time, if the council's comfortable with it, we're looking at setting public hearings in November to really approve the project. So from this point till November, if there's any information you'd like from me or to present, I'd be happy to do so. Just let me know. Once we get to November, that's when everything really picks up. We'd like to select our contract manager at that time and then start conducting public hearings on the proposed improvements. We believe if we do this in this fashion, that's going to give us enough time yet this year to get the utilities done, as well as align ourselves for next year's objectives of actually moving forward with the structures, if the council wants to. So a lot of information there. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to go over it with you, but I just wanted you to have a kind of post history and timeline as where we're going to go from this point. So.
But right now you're moving ahead with the grading, right?
Exactly. Yeah, they're out there right now. All the silt fence is up. Mid-American's actually starting to mobilize. They're going to start getting the gas lines in right now. And then I believe last time I talked to Rachi last week, they thought they could be done in about 30 days. They'll have about three crews moving dirt at once. So they should be able to knock it out pretty quick. And then that should give us enough time to finalize kind of our proposed infrastructure at that time, and then we'll bring it back for council review and go from there.
Okay. Questions?
No? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. The items that I have of note are prior to the council session on Thursday, I'll be bringing Corporal Schamberger in along with K9 Lingo. K9 Lingo's been in service since 2008. He is going to be retired and become a family pet. Corporal Schamberger and Lingo have served great in their capacity since 2008, and Corporal Schamberger is going to assume a role, one of the most critical roles moving forward in the communications center, helping me oversee that and look forward to the possible PSAP consolidation. So kudos to them. As a part of that, I've reduced the K9 structure of the Marion Police Department from 4 to 3. And we've got some old equipment that we need to dispose of. And Oskaloosa Police Department wanted to purchase one of our old K9 inserts for a vehicle. So that's just to recoup some of the money that we're going to, from a piece of equipment that's just sitting in the basement. Beyond that, that's all I have.
Any questions on that?
I guess, Chief, one thing, what type of training dogs will you have if you're going down to 3? Is that what you said? What will you keep?
Yes, sir. We'll have 1 bomb and 2 narcotics detection. Looking at the capacity and the call for service volume, I couldn't justify two bomb dogs. Our bomb dog works Monday through Friday, generic, when most of our businesses and schools are open, but they're on call 24/7 to come in and service as needed. And I think the capacity of having 1 is good for the department.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Chief, how many does Cedar Rapids have and how many does Lynn County have?
Mary Lou, Councilwoman, I don't have any idea. I'd be glad to find out for you.
Well, just from the viewpoint that since we trade back and forth so much other stuff that I mean, it makes sense to utilize other, agencies to, if push came to shove.
I know the K9 officers, they train together at least twice a month with Cedar Rapids and Lynn County, but I'll be glad to get you a breakdown and capacity for you.
Just to see how many dogs are out there.
I'll tell you, in comparison, KCPD had 10 and we had 4, so I felt we were a little ahead.
Wow, yeah.
Do we realize the significant cost savings by going down to 3?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you're looking at vehicle replacement every 4 years. You look all the equipment that goes with the vehicle. We're re-outfitting the 3rd dog, and to get the dog, the handler, and get them up to speed is just under $20,000. So it's a significant cost savings. And then, one thing I did when I first came here is I didn't want my guys having to fundraise and go out there and do 5Ks. I want them, protecting the city and being police officers, and this will really help toward the bottom line of keeping us more efficient.
Good. Well, thank you for that.
Now, when these dogs retire, does the city still pay their vet bills and all, or does the new owner take over?
When the dog is given to the handler, they are then responsible for all veterinary, all food, all care for the remainder of their lives.
No retirement benefits for the canine.
No health care. Sorry. They're expensive too. So.
Cash in that 401k.
Welcome, Chief.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
I'm back with fireworks again. To answer your question, Mary Lou, we do use the Cedar Rapids Fire Department's arson dog, so we do share that with them. The fireworks issue. It was our goal to work with Hiawatha, Robbins, and Cedar Rapids to come together and come up with a metro area ordinance that we could all work with and to be consistent with each other. Our neighbors to the west decided to go ahead and choose on their own. They do have a public safety commission, and that commission did meet and they made a decision. Therefore, they presented it to their city council, and the city council, as you know, Cedar Rapids banned the use of fireworks. So I am now working with just Hiawatha and Robbins. We've talked, and Hiawatha appears to be leaning towards at least 2 days, the 3rd and the 4th. They have not voted yet, but that is where they were leaning. So I'm just bringing you the update. I know that there were a lot of concerns, a lot of calls over this season, and we're getting calls now wanting to know what we are going to do since Cedar Rapids made a decision. People are expecting Marion and Hiawatha to now follow suit. So that's why I'm bringing it to you, and it's your decision. And once again, as your fire chief and being tasked with the protection of the citizens as the fire chief, I of course am in favor of banning them completely, but I know that's not realistic. So it is up to the council.
Why is it not realistic?
With Chief McHale, that's why.
We're going to hear. Okay.
Chief McHale, he feels that there needs to be some time out in the public to allow them to do so. I do believe. Isn't that how? I'll let you speak for yourself. But
just looking at this, what the state legislature has approved, and looking at a balance of what I saw from the community. I know we've had a lot of people in here complaining, but I saw the lines at the stands and I saw the neighborhoods, and what I saw was what I expected. People will use fireworks, and it's going to have a lot of positives and a lot of negatives. People are going to hate it and people are going to love it. And so wherever we fall on this, I think what we need to do is balance public safety. We can ban anything we want, but I think that you will still see some use in Marion. And I think the position of the police department needs to be that we can enforce either way. So if the council decides to ban it, it's no problem for your police department to take appropriate action and protect the community. But if the council chooses another measure, it will not negatively impact the ability of the police department to keep the community safe based on the laws or the ordinances that are passed.
And I'd like to clarify. I just wanted to say that as your fire chief, of course, I'm tasked with protecting the community. So to me, to do that, all fire chiefs within the state have band together and said that they were for the banning of the fireworks. With that being said, what I meant by unrealistic is it's tough to ban them. They're going to use them anyway if we're selling them. So that's what I meant by being unrealistic. When you're forced to sell them, it's kind of hard to ban them. So,
Has any thought been put about having a designated area if they absolutely have to shoot off fireworks to go out to that place and do it?
Well, we really don't have any areas unless you did parks, and parks they're banned already. So I'm not sure.
Mike doesn't look too excited about the lawn of parks.
The International Association of Fire Chiefs for the state of Iowa have come together, and they found out that there are lobbyists at this time preparing to go to the state legislature again and probably lengthen the amount of time. Yes, and they're also looking at keeping cities from being able to state where the zoning should be. They're also going to fight for banning the cities from charging fees to shoot fireworks too. So there's legislation against us right now being planned. Lobbying. the legislation. So
Whatever happened to that guy that ended up in Iowa City with the severe burns because he was holding it or put it on his head or whatever?
he survived.
He survived?
Yes, he did. So I guess I'm just here to,
So,
here we are again.
were you wanting a discussion on this tonight? or-
Yes,
I have
how you
one
feel,
question
Okay.
for her.
how would you like to see a change, or if you want to keep it the same?
What, can I ask you one question?
Sure
What
thing.
is the penalty for abuse of the regulation now?
$250.
250. I guess I've been thinking a lot about this, and I think to make it more effective, I would like to see it be $1,000.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that would get people's attention to not abuse it. If the police show up and show cause, it's $1,000.
Well, we don't enforce the fire department. We don't have,
Yeah.
we aren't sworn law
I
enforcement
know,
officers to
I know,
ticket.
but I think that would
So I
make,
think that would be
I think
turned
the
over to the
maximum
police
fine
department.
amount for a misdemeanor in state Iowa would be $500.
that's the maximum. But can we charge 1,000?
I doubt it, because
I'd
it's
defer to
also
the
in this.
attorney, but I believe the maximum is 500.
Simple misdemeanor is $625. So it's
Maybe
$625.
500 for the first offense and 1,000 for the second?
The present ordinance, not the ordinance, the state legislation, the law with the fireworks states 250. So I don't know if that can be changed or not. I would have to
Okay.
look into that.
Yeah, if you're talking about second and subsequent offenses being able to levy a higher fine, you're talking about having to raise the level of offense from being more than a simple misdemeanor, which we really can't do. That's a state offense to go up to an indictable misdemeanor. So we're pretty well capped at 625 unless we have some special legislative authority from the state.
Okay. But I think that would, I mean, we're going, geez, how are we going to enforce this? Well, the people that are going to do it are going to do it, unless we make it very painful for them to stay in the regulation, and that very painful is hit them with the money.
Would be good to be cheaper to go to Cedar Rapids and shoot them off.
Well,
I like that idea.
Yeah,
That's not to say we couldn't necessarily also attack on some sort of civil penalty.
okay.
That would be in addition to. But one of the things that both the chiefs and I and the other, not just fire chiefs, but the other city attorneys within Lynn County have discussed is the desire to have some sort of uniformity in the law as well. When you're in the heart of downtown Marion here, you're in Marion, but some of the municipal lines get blurred. And that gets not just difficult for the citizens necessarily to know where they are, but also for enforcement. Sometimes it's difficult to figure out just where fireworks are coming from. And so obviously it would be the city's prerogative to determine what they would want to do with that, but there would be some advisability in having uniformity of law between the different jurisdictions, for the reasons we just talked about.
But I really believe that would, the people that are abusing it would get their attention. They would stick with the times. And if we made it painful if they didn't.
That's if they get caught. I mean, how hard is it to catch them in the act?
Well,
Yeah, that's the one thing I brought up during our last discussion is the enforceability of the ordinance it's a whole different metric. Unless the officer physically sees them shooting off the fireworks, they cannot issue a summons. However, if they have a witness that's willing to testify in court that person A was shooting off the fireworks, then we could issue a charge and a subpoena to the witness. So you can see where if it's a neighbor calling about somebody that's shooting off fireworks, unless we get there and physically witness the act that we can testify to, absent a complainant, it's very difficult to enforce.
about a cell phone video.
If we would be given a consent to search for and access to that video, then we certainly could, absolutely, and if that person that's willing to testify would be willing to turn that video over to the police. But I can tell you the people who would want to turn their cell phone over to a police department are It- Probably not gonna happen.
I have a now, if the use of fireworks starts a fire in a house, are there elements there that that person could be charged with arson?
No,
No.
there's no
Arson.
intent.
It's, yeah.
There's no intent to start the fire.
Well, common sense, says don't do this inside, but.
It could be subrogated against by the insurance company, however.
Yes.
Pay for the damages.
So it could go
That could
of a civil type as opposed to a criminal.
So let's hear what other people think, and then we can come back to you.
Yeah,
Ken.
that's fine.
I mean, I've been receiving a lot of, not as much as prior, but I have been receiving emails and phone calls from people wondering if we're going to do the same thing as Cedar Rapids did. I think there's some merit to that because, as you said, that as the city attorney said, I think that the lines, was it you? The lines get blurred, and I mean, if you live in Bowman Woods, where's Marion and where's Cedar Rapids, and what's the difference? And I think that the issue is not just people abusing them or using it outside of the regulations. It's just plain use. There's some parts of town where the lots are really small, and so people are using it in their yard, but the debris is falling on their neighbor's yard, and the noise is bothering the neighbors, and it's just the plain ability to use them is causing the issues. It's not people abusing it in any way.
Well, this element about having the ability to sell, but then you can't use. Well, you can buy a liquor, but you can't go out on the street and use that. So.
True.
Looking at it from that element.
And I think that, are you looking for direction to
Yes.
come up with an ordinance for us to
Unfortunately, in
discuss?
talking with you too, and you've sent me you forwarded me your emails that you've received, and I've received calls also. Because Cedar Rapids made a decision, our citizens now are kind of pushing us to see what we are going to do. That's the only reason I'm bringing it forward tonight. It's just pressure from the citizens that they want an answer. So that's why I'm here.
Yeah, but you're looking for direction on drafting an ordinance, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so what's everybody else think?
I think somebody jumped there for his,
Well, Councilwoman Pizzer has raised the issue a couple of times about where these may be, set off under the current ordinance. And essentially, you can only set them off on your own property at this point. But
Is that property that you own or that you rent?
well, if you are renting it and you have the same owner, or you have the same rights as a tenant that you would as an owner, but for the actual component of ownership, yeah, you can still set it off there. Now, that's not to say that a landlord-tenant agreement couldn't prohibit a tenant from doing it on there. That'd be by private contract. That wouldn't be by statute. We wouldn't be regulating that. But as has also been stated, you can light it off on your own property and it comes down on somebody else's property. So, and there's really no way to regulate things like that other than an outright ban or, as one of the things that has been discussed, ground contact only fireworks. So that would eliminate bottle rockets and other projectiles, things like that. But again, we start getting into those types of things. We get into, one, are we varying from other jurisdictions? Not to say that we have to follow what other jurisdictions do, obviously, but if the goal is uniformity, we may be getting away from uniformity. And two, we get back into what Chief McHale has talked about with enforceability, just being, most people aren't seeing where they're coming down or whatever. They're just hearing the loud reports of them going off. So it comes back down to witnesses. I think it was Councilman Spinks that talked about what if they just had a cell phone video. You still have to have somebody, whoever took the video, come to court and testify that they're the ones that took the video. Otherwise, it's not going to be authenticated. So the enforceability, whatever we do, is going to be problematic. That's just the nature of the beast. So, I'm, obviously we'll draft whatever we're directed to draft at legal, but these are just some issues that, as the council discusses, I'd really like them to keep in mind. We can draft whatever, but our ability to enforce it is going to be what it is.
Kim?
Okay. I think most of the letters I got, everyone, even though if they were against it, they were okay with 2 days, the day before or after and the day of or something. So I think it's really unfortunate that Cedar Rapids has done this, but I feel if we get, Hiawatha, Robbins, we're a big enough group, and we go ahead and do a couple days, I would be for that. Now, I think I asked one time about what kind of fireworks we could sell, and we can maybe limit what kinds, like if they're really loud, we can ban them or no?
Not sale, but use.
No, sell.
No,
You can't regulate the sale.
can't regulate the
any
sale.
of this. Okay, well,
But you can regulate certain
use,
types
yes.
that can be used or can't be used.
Correct.
So they can buy, they could still buy types that you would outlaw, but they can't use them.
oh, well, that'd be hard to
So,
catch too.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, it's just,
okay.
Kind of stuck.
Mayor, I feel kind of the same way. I think people do have a certain right. I think it was new this year, and a lot of people went out and bought things that aren't going to do that. They're not going to go out and spend $500-600 a year for that. But it was new. It gave them new opportunity. I think there's some value, and I truthfully think it'd be easier to police if we allowed 2 days or 3 days or just on the 4th, Then we knew somebody was obviously breaking the law the other days, which we would know if we banned it. I realize that, but it makes sense to me that if the state of Iowa basically is telling us we have to allow the sale of them, that our citizens should have some usage and some time when they could fire those off. I too wish we wouldn't have the rockets, and have adjusters out checking to see if there's roof damage and stuff like that. But most of the people I've talked to is also pretty much, I had been talking about 3 days for quite a while, and maybe I sway them some, but they're in favor of a short period of time, and I do think it'll be less this year than it was last year. People spent a lot of money on those this year.
Yeah, they did. Yes, they did.
I've had both people wanting to ban and then people emailing, I don't know if anybody else has, saying they don't want to ban. I think I would be in favor for maybe just the 4th. I think it'd be hard to enforce not having any aerials, and just to keep it to ground, which I would be in favor of just for the simple fact that I had a rock to land on my house. So, who knows what could have happened.
Would you need a provision in there, though, that if it was like a professional company that came in and put on, were hired to do fireworks, then that would be at a location and that would be allowed, but...
Yeah, I think that's totally different, though, because that's not consumer fireworks. That's...
No, but it's fireworks being used, so...
Which there is already some type of ordinance in place for that, I would assume.
Should all be included in the same...
So I'm getting the sense that I expected to get, that you do just want to shrink the amount of time that they will be allowed. I just need to ask if you would feel the same if Hiawatha would ban them before you decide.
Okay.
I think so.
I think if everybody else is going to ban, I don't think we should have them then. I don't know. I think it's just...
my preference is to go back to the way things were.
Yeah.
Mine too.
We ban other things and count on people to obey the law. People can buy cigarettes, but we've banned them in public parks and, any public place.
Now, are we...
So,
eliminating Christmas or New Year's
I
also?
don't know, we haven't even gotten there, but.
We haven't even talked about that.
But, you know, if everyone is in favor of one day, or, I mean, you know, I guess I can see on the holiday, why do you need to celebrate before or after?
Yeah.
You know,
Or
on the
5
holiday
days
itself,
later,
okay,
yeah.
maybe.
That's fine.
But,
Okay.
you know, still, my number one preference, and I know I'm in the minority here, but would be to go back to the things the way it was. And if we have to have a day, you know, a day or two, I guess, but it's fine, but,
Okay, thank you.
um,
I will work with Hiawatha and our legal and try to bring something back that maybe you'd be happy with, okay?
What about the location of the sales? Like they banned it to only
Industrial.
industrial. Is that something that,
Yeah, that's up to
Is
you
that-
if
that
you would
was
want to do
legal?
that.
in the state law, they can do that? Okay.
Yes, at this time.
At this time.
Like I said, they are lobbying to
Right.
get that fixed.
Is that something that we would want to?
I guess, you know, yeah, if we're going to have
Right now, it's
Biased
C3, I
views,
do
then-
believe, right, Tom?
then I would be for,
C3?
strictly limiting as much as we can where they're sold and maximize the penalties to whatever, you know, the maximum we can do.
Limited number of days, that would eliminate a lot of them, you know.
One day.
What's that?
He had a limited number of days they could sell them, which I think we could do.
No,
It
we
would
cannot do
eliminate
that.
some of them.
So we can't.
We can't limit the number,
Days sold?
No,
As long as it's in conformity with the state law.
state law.
and the state law says,
June 10th through July 8th. June 10th through July 8th, and December 10th through January 3rd.
how long would it take them to take us to court, and what would it cost us if we just said we're not going to do that? I'm serious.
Well, as for what it would cost, I can't tell you, because what you got is, I mean, that's going to be the type of thing that'd go through a trial, it'd go through appeals, it'd go through any number of steps. On appeals, it can be kicked back down to trial courts, and I mean, it can go back up and down any number of times. Just as a matter of course, you don't generally want to be the city with the test case, so, you know, I
Why,
would
we have a
never-
good attorney, though.
the best, but I would still I don't think I would be doing my job if I didn't advise a course of action that I felt was in accordance with the state law and that kept us as free from litigation as possible. If the council would decide to disregard that advice, I'll do as I'm instructed. But one thing that was brought up was the lobbying with regard to sales at the state level. I will assure you that is something that legal is keeping a close eye on, because we assume that there will be litigation. If that passes, there will be litigation on that and how it plays with home rule legislation.
Well, now, if you can sell between, what is it, June 10th to July 8th,
Correct.
but only use it on one day, that would be legal, would it not?
Yes, you decide when they can use them.
Yeah,
We
we
can
can
ban
do
it
that.
or allow it for one day or all days.
Okay, but they can still maintain that, what
Yeah.
the legislature has done as far as the time.
You have total control of when they use them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are they lobbying to get rid of the cities being able to ban the use? Yes?
Rumor has it.
Okay. This one might be for all for nothing. So are we going to limit it to just industrial? I mean, is that what everybody thinks? Or are we going to leave it at C3? I guess, was that decided?
I'm in favor of making it as difficult as possible, so.
What about hours?
We'll work with the planning.
Do we need to
1 to
talk
2
about
a.m.
that? 1 to 2 a.m. You mean PM?
You know, when you couldn't buy them in Iowa, people were shooting them,
Yes.
going to Missouri and Wisconsin.
Exactly.
Just
so
not as often.
it's going to happen. We're going to have fireworks, but
You leave it at 11 p.m. on the 4th of July?
that's well past my bedtime. Yeah.
Might not be that night. I'll be keeping you up.
Yeah, I would limit it whatever days we decide.
One day.
Well, if it's one day, it's one day. and I would leave the location of and the number of sales units we're going to allow up to our fire chief.
Okay, I'll work with planning on that, on the zoning portion, so. We'll
Chief?
bring something back then, probably within the month.
Chief, I thought I'd heard everything when I heard the guy had shot the firework off on his head, till I heard about the people watching the eclipse were putting suntan lotion in their eyes to prevent their eyes from being burned.
Oh, my goodness.
Thanks,
What,
Chief.
Thank
sorry,
you.
what about the New Year coming up?
Well,
'Cause
it's
right now-
one day.
Right now,
Right now, it's just the one day, right?
no, it's New Year's Eve and New Year's Day.
And the day of
That'd be a good test to see how we do on the 4th next year.
winter.
Can't legislate stupidity.
But they can sell them from December 10th
Right.
through January 3rd.
So people are going to be buying them. Are we going to have tents up again everywhere?
No, they can't use tents during those months.
Oh,
The legislature did put that in there.
Oh, that was so nice.
so they just had, were there,
It fixed
did we have
buildings
anything
only.
besides tents in Marion?
Yeah, they were in the stores. They were in Menards.
Oh, they were?
Hy-Vee, yes.
No. Didn't see that.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Deb, are you gonna be here for the whole meeting? No, this is, I want to talk to you
Yes,
about
ma'am.
something.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, building inspection.
I'm hoping this is
Hi.
a little less controversial, but Building Department has 3 inspection vehicles that we're wanting to replace. They've been on the equipment replacement program since they were purchased in the 08-09 budget, and they're actually, they were due to be replaced 2 years ago, and we pushed them on and got a couple extra years use out of them. And so we're ready to replace them now. Actually, one of my inspectors, Eric Fries, did the research and contacted 5 different dealers and 5 different models that meet our needs for the inspection program. And we're recommending the Toyota RAV4 to replace the Pontiac Vibes that we have now. Of the 3 vehicles purchasing, we'll be trading in 2. The third trade-in, we're going to actually repurpose that to Parks Department for more limited use to drive back and forth between the parks buildings. So it'll serve them for a while longer. But and you have the price that we're asking there, the not to exceed in the resolution of $69,100 for the 3 vehicles with 2 trade-ins, and we're coming in under budget with the equipment reserve. It's budgeted so we'll be approximately $6,000 under budget.
Okay. So we've budgeted this for 75,000, essentially, and,
Yes.
okay.
It was budgeted at $23,500, I believe, per vehicle,
Okay. Okay,
and we're at $2,100.
nothing surprising or? Any questions?
Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Engineering?
All right, starting with item number 9, there'll be a public hearing on Thursday night. We received 2 bids on this project. This is for the pedestrian beacons. The 2 bids that we got, they're in your packet. Our low bid was with Midwest Concrete. They're the ones that do a lot of our ramp projects and smaller projects for $138,984.20. These are pedestrian beacons similar to the ones that are on Tower Terrace and the Cedar Valley Nature Trail and Boyson and the Cedar Valley Nature Trail. So they're not as, so the one on Lindale is just the one where the sign lights up. This one actually has more like a police vehicle where it actually flashes the lights. So this is what they actually look like, where they actually have a normal sign above them, and then this part is the part that flashes to try and get the attention for the kids that are crossing, the bicycles that are crossing. There's 3 locations that they're proposing to go in. The first one is Oak Park Circle. Now that we've had a lot of development on the west side, connecting these 2 communities together on Alburnett Road. The other one is at Echo Hill and Alburnett Road. Similar situation. We have a lot of development to the west. We have the schools to the east. Get a safer place for those kids to cross. And then the third location is on South 15th between the 2 school districts. Ryan guys went out and painted the crosswalk that's out there, so now it's just a matter of adding to that crosswalk and adding the beacons to it.
Was there a request to look at putting one on Boyson? Am I remembering
There
this
was a
correctly?
couple RFPs. Yeah, there's Boyson, and it was farther to our westerly border line. But
Was
for
that-
now, we're just looking at these 3.
Okay, but that might be something we do in the future? Or?
Yeah, so we have, in our program, we actually have this as an annual program to do these improvements. So as the different schools go in, the one that got put in on 10th Avenue, they actually put a beacon in there as part of the school improvement. And that's just one that has the flashing beacon on top of it.
The new school?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, as we look at these locations, as we get more of the trails in and side paths, we'll need more of these.
Okay.
Are these push buttons? So if you walk up, you push the button, or is it?
Yeah, they're push buttons. So you push the button, and the lights are actually on both sides on both signs. So it should get the attention of the drivers to slow down and let the people cross. And so the one here on South 15th is for pedestrians only, just because there's not bike paths there. There's a bike lane there. The other 2 have the bike symbol and the pedestrian symbol.
So if the individual who asked us to look at one on Boyson, checks back with us, what can we tell them that could be coming in a future year? Or?
Yeah, what we'll do is we'll evaluate all the locations just like we do as part of the CIP project, and just determine what's the most important intersection, or where's the need at to put them in. There's quite a few intersections that we could install these at.
Hold on, Chief. So tickets, Chief? So if if their flashing lights are going off and someone goes through, is that a ticketable offense? On those flashing beacons, yeah. So if someone runs through it, no ticket.
It's not like a school bus.
No, I mean, technically pedestrians have the right of way, but I don't know what the fine would be.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Are there still crossing guards at these spots? Or
There are. So the one that we put in at 29th Avenue last year, a couple years ago, the crossing guard still is typically out there, but they push the button, and that way they can help making sure that
okay, good.
just added safety, but doesn't hurt to have extra out there.
There's currently a crossing guard at 15th.
Are they going to stay
I
there?
don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll stay there or not, because
I hope so.
they can push the button from either side
Because it's
to activate it.
kindergarten
Yeah.
or is crossing right there so hopefully.
Okay. Anything else on that one? So it'll be a public hearing and then award of the contract to Midwest, those 2 items. Item 11, so this is the next phase of the Central Corridor. And so this is concurring with the agreement between Genesis Equities and Abode. So this is the next phase, which is 13th to 19th. The value in there is still called out as to be determined. We're still going through the process of making sure all the numbers are jiving. We just got it on Friday, so we haven't had a lot of time to review it. So we will keep it on the agenda for Thursday, go through the numbers and make sure everything's good before we approve it. Item number 12 is the acceptance of 2 projects that were broken into two projects just because of acquisitions and to get the project moving. So 26th Street to 31st Street Stage 1 was kind of the storm sewer and sanitary sewer project to bring all the underground utilities up to the Marion Iron or the East Roundabout project. The second phase, the 13th Street to 31st Street Stage 2, Phase 2, was then all the paving and everything that you see out there now and the actual roundabout. And so because they were all part of one set of construction plans, it's easier for the bonds and the cash escrows that they have to put forward to accept them all together. So we're kind of accepting two projects in one with all the bonds and everything, just because that's how they're set up in the plans. So it kind of cleans it up, and then we're done with this east roundabout project.
I have a question. This roundabout at 6th Avenue and 15th Street, I have never seen an estimate of what that's going to cost.
That's what you'll see on Thursday.
Oh, we'll see it on Thursday?
Yes.
Okay.
I'd point out that there's been a lot of conversation, I think, in the in the community about the cost of the roundabout. What Mike's going to provide you will be a cost of the roundabout for construction,
from 13
less acquisitions, just so you're aware. If you want acquisition costs, I can get that for you.
Yeah, that would not be a bad idea. Also, I've been asking for everything on the 7th and 7th, and I still haven't gotten that yet.
In your memo under item F1F, the total contract to date to the contractor is $2,984,728.97.
That was to Rickliffs, though.
Yes.
But that does not include the acquisition, the
No, it does
moving
not.
cost, the replacing, the tanning, and all this stuff. That's what I want to see is the entire cost.
That's the cost to build it.
And we're working on that. I'm going to have a map, hopefully for the next meeting, that identifies all the property, because that's what you've asked for, is a map of all the property that the city's acquired, the taxable value, and the taxes that have come off the rolls. I'm assuming that's what you're looking at. Over the course of the last few years. I was going to go back to probably when we did 7th and 7th roundabout.
Well, what I'm more concerned about is the cost of the roundabout, putting it in the acquisition of the properties, the moving costs, the demolition, everything. And by the way, you cannot get from 5th Avenue to 7th Avenue on 6th Street, because I tried the other day to get to Country Kitchen and ended up going the wrong way just to pull into the driveway. That is the dumbest thing.
I don't know.
I don't know who designed it. It's not good.
First complaint I've received on this.
Well, I mean, you have to go up and around and
Yeah,
thank you.
While we're talking about all of this, have you ever looked at, I know we did this planning for this project, 6, 7 years ago? Have you gone and looked at where we're at as far as what was estimated as to where we are spending wise now?
Yeah, we've been keeping track of it, just on a general sense for the entire project. I'd have to go back and look, because this last bond, we did have some additional dollars in there for the Central Corridor project to see where we're at on the total. The plan included construction costs and then estimates of acquisition costs in the original Central Corridor plan.
Yeah, that would be something, I think, kind of what she was talking, where are we at with the budget? What we estimated this project to be, the 6th Avenue corridor project. I think that would be something good to have.
Yep, we'll get that for you.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Mike.
All right, planning.
Right into there.
First couple items, I'm going to turn over the gavel to Mayor Pro Tem.
The first item, number 3, is related to a plat of survey 2188 for property up in Echo Hill, up north of Echo Hill School, north of Echo Hill Road. I don't know if the council, some of you may recall, there was an illegal split that was done in that area. It's been almost 10 years ago now, when the housing market kind of took a shift. There was a property that was sold as a sheriff's sale, inconsistent with the preliminary plat, and we held up the development until such time there would be any further, until the illegal split would be taken care of. This plat of survey is the first step into going forward with that. And so essentially, and I don't know how much the council really wants to know about this, but if you look at this map, this property in this vicinity was split off. And when they did it, they'd split essentially these lots in half all the way down there. So it created a situation where the owner of this property couldn't develop consistent with the preliminary plat. And we said until there's a correction of this plat, in other words, the plat is following the preliminary plat lines, we were not going to allow any further sales or platting the property. And I think the council's heard from the developer on this more than once. There has been, something is broke free now, so essentially the owner of this property is purchasing this piece, and if you notice, it's going to go over and split the property lines, and then, which will allow this transaction to occur, and you'll see a plat come in consistent with the preliminary. There will be another transaction in this vicinity before we will allow further splitting north of this vicinity too. So anyway, it's just a little update for the council, let you know that that's kind of broke free and that we will be recommending approval of the subdivision continuing at such time that the actual transfers take place and we follow up and make sure everything's occurring consistent. So, any questions on that? I kind of went through it quick. Number 5 is just bringing back to the City Council the hotel project on 7th Avenue, the Marriott Town Place Suites. I think the packet was pretty explanatory on what's being proposed, and you guys have seen the elevations over the last few weeks. Exciting project. This is just to bring it forward and get approval consistent with the interim development ordinance. Do you guys have any questions on that? The elevations were provided in the packet. I don't know if anybody in the audience wants to see, but exciting project on the redevelopment there. Number 6, 7, and 8 are all related. On Thursday, we'll have a public hearing regarding the vacation and sale of the alley located adjacent to 897th Avenue. The packet was pretty detailed on the information. Essentially, there's a dentist's office proposed on the property. He's acquired the lot along 7th. So this is 9th, 7th. So this is the old auto sales on the north side of 7th Avenue. Joe Lenz, the dentist here, has bought this block and is going to build a new dentist office in this location, and is going to bring forward parking lot and stormwater detention in this area. So he's asked for the vacation and to purchase this alley, which is identified in red, consistent with the city's policy, so that in order for this to occur, we have to have a public hearing regarding the sale. At the Planning Commission meeting, there was some concern by the individual that owns this property about providing access or obtaining or maintaining access to the alleyway. There is some grade changes here that make that difficult, and this project in itself is going to be a great asset and I think a great reuse for the project, and it's necessary for the project to continue. So you may hear from some folks in the neighborhood regarding that on Thursday. Planning Commission did recommend approval of the vacation and sale, and staff is also supportive of that, was supportive of that to the Planning Commission. So, but there'll be a public hearing on that on Thursday.
Were there any concerns at all at the Planning Commission?
I don't believe there were any major concerns of the Planning Commission. I think there were questions related to the access through the property. And I think when the vote came that the commission supported the request.
So is that neighbor still using the alley for access to their property?
Well, this is the alley. I would venture to guess, and I can't guarantee it, but the city hasn't been maintaining that alley for many years. It was used
Like their parking lot.
Yeah. And the use of the alley, sorry, this is a little difficult to see, was by this property owner, and they were getting, like if someone came in here and delivered something, they would kind of cut up through here. So you can see it's really, while it may be being used now as an alley, if you look at the property lines,
Yeah.
I would venture to guess that the alley is not
What's being used, the parking lot's being
correct. I think there's some fuzziness back there on what's
used. Alley
what.
doesn't even touch that property.
Correct. It'd be a point-to-point connection. So, I mean, I'm not saying that it's not difficult for this individual changing the way it's being used, but I would question whether the way it's being used is actually legally able to occur. So.
On that number 60, is that a garage? Looks like that's a garage off of the alley.
Yes, it is. So this is there's a business here and a garage here, and you can see.
No, number 60 up
Oh,
on that.
60. This?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
No, to the right.
To the east.
To the east.
60
of it.
is the dimension.
He's talking about
There's a
Yeah,
bunch of
where it
60s.
says right there.
758, yeah.
If you look at the picture, it looks like that's a garage off of the alley.
But he purchased that property also.
Yeah, he's bought all of this.
He owns all of
Okay,
it.
so he's buying that.
Yeah.
Correct, yeah. So all of this will go away.
It's all going to be part of the
Okay.
development.
Yep.
Never
Sorry.
mind.
I was confused.
So no one needs that alley for access.
Correct. There are some utilities in there, I believe, and we'd want to maintain an easement through there, but it's really just for parking lot. The building's going to be on the south side, so.
Historically, did that alley ever run through there?
Yes, I believe it did.
So we've sold that alley to the people that are now complaining about not being able to use it?
It looks as though the property owner to the north purchased the alley at some point in time. I don't know the history on it. I think the owners here are fairly new. And actually, I think it may have been a lease holder. I'm not sure of the ownership arrangement, but I think
That was a standard station, that alley ended, right? Where you're ending it.
Oh, yeah.
On one of the documents, it said vacated alley going down to, was that 10th? Or not 10th, 8th?
8th. Yeah, you can see where you know, this is, you guys hear me talk about this all the time when we're talking about the vacation of alleys. You get that broken tooth, you know, that what we like to do is see them split, and then you get a nice straight line and a flat. Well, in this instance, over time, what's most likely occurred is this individual chose not to purchase their proportionate share. Our policy is that each owner gets a first right of refusal for half the alley. This owner likely did not choose at some point in time, whether it be this owner or a previous owner. That's sometimes over the years, that's just how it happens. But there is still, the only alley left in the block then would be this from the north to the south. Anyway, and you saw the way that the city's policy is the square footage is the value is determined by the 35% of the average assessed value to surrounding property owners, and there's a chart in there. It comes down to about $2.15 square foot, and I think the price turned out to be about $2,500. So that's what the city would get as a part of the transaction.
Okay.
Any questions? So number 9, I think the council's heard quite a bit about this over the last few meetings. It was been rezoned, so it's been on the agenda for 3 meetings. This is Robson's development north of 29th, west of 44th, east of 35th. And I think this is probably the best rendering just to kind of illustrate what is being proposed. It's a mix of single-family homes and multifamily. So 29th Avenue being located here. This is 35th Avenue. So the water tower would be in this vicinity. This is an extension of English Glen. The English Glen development. You have North-South Street running through here. It's not a direct route through the plat. We didn't want to see that direct route to create another arterial through the neighborhood. You got the multifamily along 29th Avenue. It does turn the corner here. And the property owners over to the east have been a little bit concerned with that, but I think they're satisfied with the proposal that's come through at this point. These lots were narrow, and part of the problem has been trying to get some depth out of those, and they've actually moved the street over a little bit to make them a little bit deeper at this point, and I think everybody's been pretty satisfied with what's being done in this vicinity. If you'll recall, when the rezoning was going forward, a group of neighbors came in from this area along the Quail Trail extension requesting that the covenants of the existing development be pushed through into this development. While the city doesn't have any, we don't really have much to do with the covenants. If you notice, the owner has, these lots are quite large and are very consistent with the size of the lots to the east. So I don't think there's going to be any major issues with that from a redevelopment perspective either. So I don't know if there's any concerns by the council as you looked at the development plan. Really haven't heard a whole lot from the neighborhoods adjacent to this. I think the most was just from that initial meeting when the public hearing for the rezoning came forward.
Is this for the whole area or just the?
Yes, so on the agenda would be the
whole area,
approving the preliminary site development plan and the preliminary plat. So the next thing that you would see come forward would be the final plat for the next edition, the first addition to this. So it would likely be several final plats and take some time to develop.
Part of that being colored kind of threw me off.
Yeah, oh, sorry, yeah, they were just trying to identify the preliminary site development plan is really the highlight of the multifamily area.
A lot. What was it, 170 lots? Or no, 140?
Yeah. I should know, and I don't know right offhand. There's 157 lots on the preliminary plat. Yeah.
When you say 157, is that, so if it's a 3-unit condo building, is that 3 lots?
There's 137 for the single-family homes.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, just looking at the report.
Yeah, 37 for some.
Lots 1 through 19 are 2 and 3 family units.
Yep. If you notice the units, if you look closely, we went through the conversation of having the row,
under 200,
the driveways, and ensuring that there's some separation. So there are some separation of the driveways, so you don't get 2 driveways side by side. And then we've tried to, and we've encouraged these side load garages where possible to get some breaking up of that as well. So you'll see that intermittently through there. And this is proposed to be a private wet pond. So there'll be homes surrounding a wet pond. It'll be a nice development. We are making some key connections through here too. So Quail Trail will extend between 44th and 35th. Some connectivity of the neighborhoods. we like to see a little bit of an offset and a curve, and that's why you see that. If you notice on McGowan and some of the older or the newer parts of McGowan, it's a straight line. Some of the curvature of the road will slow down the traffic through the neighborhoods. So.
Any other questions for Tom?
Good.
Okay.
So you'll see on the agenda approval of the preliminary site development plan and the preliminary plat on Thursday. At the last meeting, the city council heard a presentation by the Brandon White of the Corridor Metropolitan Planning Organization, who worked with the city and Marion Independent on the Safe Routes to School plan. And on Thursday, we'll be looking for a resolution approving that planning document unless there were concerns or questions by the council to further.
Everyone had time to look at that?
Not really. Not with
It was a
everything else that's been on the agenda this
Haven't got through the whole thing yet.
Yeah. So, well, you can. I mean, that's up to the council if you want it on the agenda, or that's up to you guys. I don't want to push something through that you guys haven't read.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if it's a concern, I would.
I haven't read it, but I've thumbed through every page and looked at it, but haven't read every single
haven't
page.
read it. Would it be better to table it or just to leave it off?
I think we're trying to get that thing approved, but obviously, I want the council to be comfortable with it. If there is a desire for not,
Well,
whatever the
yeah.
council for.
I think you need to know what you're voting on, so if you, and it is a big document.
Yeah, it's
so-
a 100-page document. So.
More time?
Leave it off or table?
Leave it off,
Can we have more time?
Okay.
Okay.
yeah.
I have one question, though. The 20 miles an hour, I think there was a recommendation in there to reduce the speed limit to 20 miles an hour in school zones. Is that, it's 25 now? I'm trying to,
I believe it's 25, isn't it?
25?
Yeah.
Okay, so no issue with reducing it to 20. I mean, that's only 5 miles.
Well, that would come back to the council for official action. That's what the plan would recommend. There would be council action be required to make that happen. It's just that's.
So by adopting this plan, we're just adopting it as a general concept.
Correct.
And then there are pieces of it that have to get approved. It's not just going to be implemented automatically.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
And to change the speed limit, you're gonna have to do it by resolution, and it'll go through TAC and our normal procedure for doing that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ordinance.
Quiet in the audience.
Yeah, a lot of work went into that, and it's, a lot of good stuff, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
It needs to be,
I just want to make sure everybody knows what it is before we vote on it.
It's a lot.
No, I 100% agree.
not before bedtime reading.
But do make an effort to read it by the next meeting,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
please.
Uh-oh, now I'm in
Sorry,
trouble.
I just wanted to note that this is also on the city's website under, in the works,
Yeah.
I believe. And so it is available to public. I know that you all got a hard copy, but it is in digital format on the website.
No, good.
So anybody in the public is able to view it as well.
Okay.
It was impressive. Kesha was back 2 days and had that document done.
That's right.
Okay, well, thanks for your patience on that. I mean, we've had full agendas, and I just want to make sure that
Understand.
people had a chance to really look at that document.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're not, last thing we want is you guys to push through something you haven't been fully aware of. So,
Yeah.
no, it's been a great cooperation between the school district and the city, and I think it's a good plan to see move forward. So, but, yep.
Thanks.
Speaking of cooperation, number 12 is the 28, number 13 is the resolution approving a 28E, but you have a copy of it in the packet. This is a 28E agreement between Lynn County and the cities of Cedar Rapids, Marion, regarding the multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan for 2019 to 2024. These are required documents to have in place to be eligible for federal funds in the event of an emergency disaster situation. Thankfully, we're not in a situation like a lot of the country is right now, but these plans are what help our jurisdictions work together and respond to emergency situations, whether it be flooding or any other issue. And these plans are put together. There's time and effort to ensure that all the jurisdictions, police, fire, planning, administration, and all agencies are working together to ensure the safety of the residents of the region, not just one individual city. So this document would be provided, would be completed by ECOG. They did the last plan. We would have representation on that, and then there's a participation by each of the communities a part of that project. Ours is rather small. It's $5,500 for over 2 fiscal years for a portion of that. So I think that's a good plan and makes sense to move forward with, and really helps that someone else is spearheading that and that we can be a participant rather than the producer of our own plan. And I think it is a much better situation. We're all working together as a region opposed to individuals. So I know that the police and fire department will be very active in that committee.
So is that fee, is that for the cost of preparing the document?
Correct. ECOG is going to be the administrator of the grant. And so there is a grant that's being provided as part of this too. So
Wasn't it paying 80%?
Yep. Yeah. I believe that's what it was, yes. So, any questions on that? We've done this in the past over the years. So.
Are they doing this with like Hiawatha and any of those other cities as well? Or?
You know, I was reading through the resolution, and generally all of the metro communities are involved in that, and I believe they are in this one as well.
I just wondered if all of Lynn County was involved.
Yeah, I think it's the region. So I mean, it's going to be more of the metro communities. Lynn County.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Okay.
We have one joint plan as a metro area, opposed to what used to happen is we'd all have our individual plans, and then if in an event, I mean, all of a sudden we're forced to talk each other and not have a coordinated effort, and I think that's where we've been moving in the last few years.
I think that was the chief's idea for the communications center, wasn't it?
Correct.
Wasn't that one of the reasons why you push for that, or are pushing for that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. We clearly want to be a coordinated team as we move forward, especially in the event of an emergency. So
yeah.
I think we've all seen where that's worked and where it hasn't. We'd rather see it work. So once this is approved, there'll be more to come. We'll have a committee, and there'll be committee representation. I would likely see emergency services and public services be a major part of that planning effort. So.
Okay.
Number 14 is approving an agreement with the Iowa Department of Transportation related to design and construction of Indian Creek Trail. The council may recall we applied for and received grant funding for trail project, the Indian Creek Trail, which is essentially from Alburnett Road or up into Tower Terrace Road along Indian Creek. The estimated price for that, or estimated cost for that trail development is $2.8 million, and this was an 80-20 split. So the city's responsibility for that is about $560,000 of the $2.8 million project. So it's we received this funding through the corridor MPO as a part of their funding process for grant and trails that have been going on. I think this is one of several. So the CMAR Trail is a part of the same type of grant funding. The funds are available in fiscal year 2018, so that's coming up, and so we'll be proceeding with obtaining a consultant and doing the design work associated with that project.
So where it goes from where to where?
Essentially Alburnett Road, but it's I want to say it's Willow Park, extending along Indian Creek.
Oh,
I don't have a map of it. Wait, I do.
There was a map in the pack.
There was.
I must have missed that one.
yeah.
So you're extending Boyson Trail, ends along Indian Creek. It does come up and hit Boyson Road, and then it'll cross, go up 10th Street, and then dip down. The city owns all this property. And then it'll go under 29th Avenue Bridge, back through Linmar, and then up and then reconnect at the future Tower Terrace Road.
Okay.
So
And what happens when it floods and wipes out the trail?
this trail will be constructed of concrete. So we will likely not have the same issues, correct me if I'm wrong. We will likely not have the same situation. As you'll recall, as part of the CMAR trail and the funding that we received, that trail will also be moved to concrete so that there will be hopefully less destruction during flood events.
Just knowing that the bridge at Boyson Road and all, where the little kid got caught and drowned, wasn't it? That's awful close in there.
Yeah, that's not to say that these trails won't go underwater on occasion, but
they won't wash out.
They won't wash out, and I think Mike could probably speak more to that than.
Because I know that the one in Thomas Park has been replaced so many times. Every time it floods Thomas Park, it's got to be replaced. So, okay, if you say so.
Repaired, not really
repaired,
replaced.
It's also probably one of the biggest recreational assets the community has. I mean, the trail usership in that area is quite extensive.
No,
so there'll be more to come on this. This is just the first step in approving an agreement with the IDOT, and then we'll go through the process of selecting its consultant. The council will have more than one opportunity to weigh in on the rest of this as the design process comes through and unfolds.
So that will connect or can connect into the current Indian Creek Road trail that could be in the future. That makes sense?
No,
so Indian Creek Road. So we own half of Indian Creek Road.
Oh, yes.
And that will become a trail.
Yep, absolutely.
So that'll connect into that too.
Yep. So we'll get up to, through the design process, we'll determine how we're going to get up to Tower Terrace Road onto the trail that will be along Tower Terrace Road, and then it'll connect. So yeah, you'll be able to go north along the old Indian Creek Road once that's developed out.
Right.
So essentially, I mean, you could say that this is going to provide a link to get us to Lucor.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a great project too, because if you look at this, there are not a lot of property acquisitions necessary. There are a few, but there's not a lot, and I think that's going to be critical for this.
Yeah.
And it's going to be
80% is being paid by the MPO dollars.
Yep.
That might have gone to another city somewhere else to do something there or whatever, but they were awarded to Marion.
Yep. Yep. Okay. So it's a great project. I think it's going to be a really exciting one. And it hooks up, I think, right about where the Donley Park Bridge was. So there'll be a split there. You can go west to the Boyson Trailhead or go northeast and head up to Linmar. So it's a great opportunity. The next item is a resolution approving relocation expenses related to the 1405 7th Avenue purchase. And I think in the memo it was discussed, but essentially the city acquired DMC Storage, as the council is aware. That closed today. The city is now the owner. I think there's been some confusion in the public about what's been going on there. The city approved a purchase agreement last month. The property was closed on today. The city paid $601,250 for the property, and that was the appraised value, not the assessed, the appraised value. There was within the appraisal the opportunity for the city only to purchase a portion of that property. In discussions with the owner, there was not a desire for the city to purchase what we needed for the project, but a desire for the city to purchase the entire tract. So That's why we went forward with the 601-250 purchase. So we'll own the entire property. There are 4 lots between 6th and 7th. I think there was some confusion on that, and I'd just like to provide some clarity. I'd also point out that we're paying $550 for each unit to be moved. That's everybody gets the same amount, and that's based on moving rates established by the federal government and the state related to eminent domain and relocation assistance packages. So $550 per unit. Total comes out to $35,750. So the way that this is going to work is that the city would write the checks, and we're using Universal Field Services. They are our acquisition agent. They are contacting each person that has units, and some people have more than one, and they will then work with each individual owner to ensure that the unit is empty, and then they'll get their $550. We've contacted, I think, 53. This was as of last week. We had 53 contacted. 11 people were, I believe, out of state or unavailable to meet. They're trying to meet with each individual to discuss the parameters of the move and the relocation. And so that is moving forward. I think we've had a really good turnout. I mean, anybody in that line of work knows that I was fully expecting there to be some units that were just kind of, people would walk away from them. Thus far, we've had very good response, and folks are, relocating their items. And so we've given them time to get out. We'd like to be done by the end of the month. That would be the ideal, but I think they do have until the end of October to be out. I'd have to check for sure on that. But so our acquisition agents, we working directly with the tenants of each unit to relocate them. There will be no other relocation assistance provided as a project. So this is it. Each unit gets $550. I will point out that the city did acquire a lease as a part of this. If you notice, there's a billboard. So there is a lease with the billboard company that will be sitting down. I believe they did get a copy of that to us, and that lease expires in October, so we'll probably work with them in the next 30 days to try and get that, to determine what we wanted to do with that as well. So we'll bring that back to the council for discussion.
So basically, on the average, you are paying 8 months' worth of rent to each person.
You can look at it any way you'd like.
Wow, that's a heck of a deal.
The way that we estimate the cost is to relocate all the items out of one unit to another. It's based on a one-room move.
But you're giving them that much rent.
Depends on where they go.
You're just saying, like with an eviction, you have a month to get out. So
we are not allowed to do that by state code. We have things that we have to do as a part of an acquisition consistent with Chapter 6B.
So,
I mean,
if legislature's going to look at anything, maybe it should be looking at things like this, because that seems a little pricey.
Those are pole buildings, right? They're not steel buildings.
I believe they're pole buildings, yeah.
Okay, steel would be sellable. Pole is not.
No, they're pretty old.
If you find any used Mustangs in there, Paul.
Yeah, any auto parts.
Send them to Paul.
Okay. Any questions on that?
Any questions?
Is that it for you?
I just want to point out, and unless there's discussion, I don't want to belabor the issue, but number 17 is the second consideration in the hours of operation on Tower Terrace Road, so that'll be on Thursday as well.
Did you talk about 16?
Oh, I'm sorry, I did not. I turned the page and went completely past it. Item number 16, the City Council directed staff to proceed with doing what we needed to do to donate the property on 5th Avenue at 2941 5th Avenue to Marion Independent School District for construction of a home by their students. And the way that we need to proceed with that is we would have a public hearing on September 21st. And at that point in time, it would be opened up as a donation if someone walked in and had to say anything about that, if they wanted to buy it, it would be at the council's discretion at that meeting what you wanted to proceed with. but every indication and everything on the publication is going to note that this is a donation to the Marion Independent School District. So if someone comes in and says they're willing to buy it or something, that'll be up to the council to decide if that comes forward, or if there's, for or against or whatever. So just letting the council know it's going to be published as a donation. So that is a possibility.
Well,
I don't really foresee it, but that could happen.
Could happen.
Well, once that land is donated to the school district, why would, and how do they disposed of other houses that they built?
Still.
They sell them, but,
Yeah.
but who gets the
The school district.
The school district.
Yeah.
So then why would, the city council would not be involved in anything past the donation of the land?
No, he's saying someone might come in and say, rather than donate it, they would offer to buy it. So try to undercut the school.
Oh, I see.
I just want you to
Okay.
be prepared for
If
that.
somebody would do
I
that.
mean, that's
No, they wouldn't undercut the school.
Well, anything could happen.
If the school makes
just-
any profit, they use it for next year's.
Well, that's what I thought.
And they have expenses in building the house,
You know,
so.
it's our process for the disposition of publicly owned property. So we hold a public hearing. I just want the council to be aware of that potential situation. It may not happen, but I don't want you on your heels if that does happen. Okay.
Well, let's hope not. So, okay.
And then item 17 is the tax. So. Any other questions for me? That's all I had.
Hi, Tom.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Ron?
Yeah, the first item under administration is a service agreement between us and the Cedar Rapids Metro YMCA for well-being services. The city's license to use Blue Zones and the Blue Zones name runs out in December of 2017. And one of the things that we've been talking about is what do we do to ensure that some of those programs continue to live on in the community. There are a lot of things that were started as part of that program, things like Sunrise Yoga, the community garden in the Uptown that have continuing benefits for the community. And so rather than try to build capacity or do anything like that in-house, the YMCA has been one of our strategic partners in this program since the initiative. They gave us a proposal to continue to provide those services on behalf of the community. And so we had brought this back to the council, I think, back in April, just for the services agreement. Now we've actually turned it into a contract and brought it to you for approval. We have $20,000 in the budget for continuing activities related to community well-being.
And what's the amount of this contract?
It's $1,100 per month, and then there are some other annual potential costs in there as well. And then the YMCA is committing on their side about $5,000 in-kind dollars and hard dollars towards the project as part of their continuing commitment.
Now, this is in addition to the whatever of the $6 million that we are donating to the Y on Tower Terrace, correct?
This is strictly a services agreement. This is to continue to do these activities throughout the community, ones that they've been doing for the last, they've been doing them since April as an organization, but these have been provided by volunteers and paid for through Wellmark and the Blue Zones project when that funding was going.
So like the Sunrise Yoga, that's all completely handled by the Y.
Right. All those programs will be coordinated.
And how long is the contract good for?
I think we went this one December 31st for the remainder of this year, and then we would do another one for the remainder for the next calendar year.
And they're programs that are free to the community, right?
Right.
I mean, nobody's paying for yoga. And, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did we have this? So when we had this in place before as an agreement and not a contract, are the prices the same? Have they changed?
It's actually less.
It's less.
When this was being done through the Blue Zones project, the city and several other entities were actually providing local match for that project, and the cost through Blue Zones was higher than what the YMCA has proposed.
Other questions on this? Okay.
Number 2 is the resolution approving the economic development policy. I don't know on this one if there's a particular sense of urgency that we have to have it approved now. I know there's a lot contained in that. Haven't heard much from the city council on it, but I believe Nick Glue would like to have an opportunity to run it past his board for any final review and comment before we actually do the formal adoption. Just wanted to see if the council had questions about it. There are a few changes that we're going to make in there yet to some of the language related to the brownfield eligible expenses. But beyond that, a lot of it was cleaning up and clarifying the separation of the Marion Commerce Corridor back into its 2 component TIF districts, and then eliminating the language from the urban revitalization replacement that was done in the Central Corridor District for a period of time. That period has sunset, and we're not doing any more of those projects. Then we also added a component into it at the end that regards the use of urban revitalization for housing projects that meet needs identified in our housing study.
Questions?
I would ask to pull it off for now, for sure. I personally haven't been able to read the whole thing yet.
It is quite a piece.
Yeah.
Okay.
Number 4, Marion Process Solutions, the company formerly known as Marion Mixers, is looking at an expansion project and has asked the city to assist them with that. They are looking at putting in an application to the state that has a required match component for the local portion of the project, and with your leave, we'd ask the company and Mr. Glue to make a presentation about what their plans are.
Okay. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Council. Nick Glue, President of Marion Economic Development Corporation. I have with me today Jeremy Johnson. He's the COO of Marion Process Solutions. He's going to spend just a couple of minutes talking about what their project is, and I think even more importantly, giving you an idea of what this company does in our community, because this is truly one of our gems, and I think it benefits us all to understand better what they do. Again, as Lon had mentioned, we are working similar to almost the timeline that we worked with Legacy Manufacturing last month, if you'll recall, and thank you to those of you who were able to join us out at their groundbreaking today. I don't know if we all feel like we have a thin layer of dust all over us out there in active sight. But anyway, Lon was correct. We are working to get a local match in place for the state piece. The state is considering that at the end of the month. So this is kind of the first part for you guys to learn about that project, and I'll let Jeremy take it from there.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Thanks for your time today. I appreciate you letting me stand up here and babble on about our company. But so we are an 80-year-old organization, and most of those 80 years have been in Marion. We design, we manufacture process equipment that is custom, and that goes into the bulk powder industry. So some examples of that would be if you're wandering through a store, anything in a bag or a box, that we sell equipment into those manufacturers of those products. So like your bakery mixes, your drywall gypsum, your recycled or colored wood mulch, and then probably our favorite one to talk about is the water-soluble film that goes around your dishwasher tabs or your Tide Pods or whatever it may be. We've got about 22 machines out there that are producing that chemical basically for an organization. So it's been a really fun project. I wanted to also tell you guys can see that okay, about a couple of projects that we've done here recently. This is a flavor dosing system for Keurig. I think probably most people are familiar with the company Keurig. They came up with the K-Cups, and then that's kind of blown up, and other companies have jumped on board with that. But they are the originators of that. This is actually a flavor dosing system along with some CIP, so it's a clean in place. So they are able to take coffee and convey it through, mix it, flavor it, and then it cleans itself as well. So they can continue to to just cycle through that process. And just a little background on what this has done for Keurig. It increased their batch size by 400%, 78% decrease in batch cycle time. That whole process will run in 15 minutes from start to finish, and it can process 7,000 pounds every 70 minutes, and they were running 3,000 pounds previously. So it was quite an undertaking, and this is something that was done in our existing lab facility. A lot of the development was done in a lab that's about 1,600 square feet and really is not equipped to really handle any of this sort of development here. So what we're talking about is a newer lab facility, and let me start by showing you what the interior of the building will look like. So you've got about 5,600 square foot building, and inside that you've got 3,100 square feet of lab space, which would be on the bottom section of the screen, and then the top section of the screen is actually office space. So that would house our lab techs and our sales team. So it would put them in very close proximity to the lab itself. So this will be a state-of-the-art lab. It'll allow us to do additional development for projects like Keurig, or for projects like, which is a wave mix project. And what wave mix is some technology where we've taken kind of our traditional mixing equipment and we've added microwave energy to it. So it allows it to heat, so you can cook, dry, and this one actually does microbial reduction. So it's killing bugs basically within a product. So this is actually something that we've worked on with Cornell University out of Massachusetts, and then a company called Covance, which is about I think Nick told me, a $200 billion company that does a bunch of development within the food industry. So we're really excited about that and where that can go. The reality of this was we were able to do some of the work in our current lab, but just due to some constraints, we weren't really able to do all of it. So some of it got farmed out, back to Cornell or wherever it may have gone. So the new lab will allow us to be able to handle a good portion of that work all in-house. So this is just a rendering we had done of what the facility will look like. So there's an exterior view of it. We would take our two existing buildings and we would match colors and kind of match that orange stripe across there too. So it's going to look very nice. And if you guys are familiar with the area that this is now, this is quite an upgrade to what was there or what's there recent or currently about to be torn down. So I would say, I just want you guys to know we did have a record year last year, and this new facility just allows us to keep that trend going. With this new facility, we're looking at going from 55 employees to probably, we're estimating 70 employees. That's a 27% increase by the year, our year end, which is 3/31/2021. And we're looking to kind of match sales right along that same trajectory of about 28% in that same time period. So we're really excited about this building. We're really excited to build it in the city of Marion. We're really excited to work with all of you. We've had just great experiences with our interactions with all of you and Nick. So we're excited about the quality of people that Marion has and to continue our relationship. So any questions?
Well, thank you for that. Questions?
Well, it says asking for financial assistance. How much? I can't figure it out by what is on the...
So that's essentially what you are being asked to pass, is directing staff to negotiate what that financial assistance might look like. Again, when a company is working through the state of Iowa's High Quality Jobs Program, and that's the application that's in the process of being submitted and will be considered by the state board at the end of the month, with that comes a local requirement. And my understanding is what's going to be proposed is essentially the minimum requirement that cities need to have in there for them to qualify for the state piece. So it'll be in the form of a small TIF incentive based on the new value that they create by building this building in our community.
Well, I noticed it's almost 1.8 million as far as the total use. And
That's their total investment.
The total investment in the project.
It's the total, yeah.
Okay. So to get, if I'm correct, they're applying for state assistance, but for them to get that, they're required to get local assistance. So what this vote is about is to direct the staff to move forward and negotiate with Marion Process Solutions on an agreement of what the local match would be.
But not necessarily a match.
Oh,
right?
no, not 100% match. No.
No. This will be a small number compared to some of the other projects you've looked at recently.
Okay. Mr. Eilers, tell Barry Boyer hello for me, please.
I'll do that.
Well, thank you for coming, and we're glad that Marion Process Solutions is in Marion. It's a kind of a company that goes about its business quietly, but is doing work internationally and putting Marion on the map. So thank you, and we appreciate your commitment to Marion and wanting to grow here.
Thank you.
I
Appreciate
have
the time.
one question. Was it a new building? I mean, are you tearing down others and building a whole new building, or is this going to be an
Yes.
addition to?
Yes, it's going to be a new facility. So it's,
you'll
it's
build
tearing
that
down
and
the
then tear down
existing,
the, okay.
if you remember Econoto,
Gotcha.
it's tearing down that entire facility and a brand new building. Yep.
Understand.
They're not tearing down any of their existing buildings.
Right.
They're tearing down an adjacent building that they acquired.
Okay.
There will be additional space.
That was my question.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Okay,
yes.
yeah, so you're expanding and not,
It is.
you're expanding on a different site.
Yep. Yep.
See, that I understand. The money part, no.
Yeah, I was
The
confused.
property that they've acquired adjacent that they will be tearing down, they're doing that regardless of if they do this project or not. Just when it comes to understanding the financial incentive piece, I believe that property today, sitting unoccupied, has an assessed value of about $120,000. So again, after this project, know that it will come back assessed at $800,000 or $900,000. So great opportunity for the community and obviously for Marion Process Solutions as well. And I will also say this facility, their lab space, so think of this is the place where their customers located all around the world come and essentially develop the next mixers that will be made as custom solutions for those companies. So it's a place that, quite frankly, they want to put their best foot forward, and when they're welcoming guests to our community. The other cool thing is when you guys were talking about the hotel project earlier, I turned to Jeremy and I said, hey, it's going to be great because the customers that you have coming to your labs, now we're going to have a great hotel to host them in our community instead of sending them to our neighbors next door as well, right? So anyway,
Right.
great company. We're really pleased to have
And the percentage increase in employment potential from this project is really good.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. Any other questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
With number 7 on Thursday, we'll have a couple of folks in with SB Coastal. That's a new company that Stephanie Neighbor and Brian Kubik that they have formed. They are buying the building that Bliss Salon is in. That is the one that's across the street from Fretz over on 10th Street. And
Which one is it? I'm sorry.
I didn't hear that.
it's the one across from Fretz over on 10th Street next
Okay.
to the parking lot that where the church used to be.
Yes.
Yep. And they're going to be doing some pretty extensive renovations to it, including some historic preservation, some ADA upgrades, and working on the main floor and converting what is right now used as a residential unit into commercial space. So much like the presentation you just heard, they'll make a similar one on Thursday, but then the motion would be to direct staff to negotiate a memorandum of understanding with them for the potential use of incentives to assist with the cost of that project. It's a smaller one, but it's in the Uptown District, and they are working on a historic building.
So the reasoning for that would be preserving the building?
Yep. Yeah, it doesn't have any ADA accessibility right now. It does not have ADA restrooms. The wiring in it is a mixed bag of what was done with prior renovations over the years. There are a lot of pieces that need to be done to preserve the building envelope and to bring it up to current codes.
Okay, any questions on that?
And number 10, I don't believe we have that back, so we'll be removing that one from the agenda.
Okay.
Then the last item I had for discussion was number 17. In looking forward at the City Council meeting dates for 2018, hard to believe we're at that point already, but we like to get a good jump on that. We identified a couple of them that fall on or near holidays. So January 2nd, of course, would be the council meeting. That is the day after New Year's Day. And then the other one would be the week of November 20th and 22nd, with the 22nd being Thanksgiving. And so I wanted to get some input from council on how we wanted to handle that. In prior years, we've often been able to move those back a week or move them around. I think the recommendation from the staff this side would be, rather than doing that, maybe we could do like we did around the 4th of July this year, and just like in January, not have a Tuesday work session and do a combined meeting on the 4th. And then on the week of Thanksgiving in November, to do a combined meeting on the Tuesday instead.
We can cancel that.
Yeah.
Put it here.
Any
I would like
input
to,
on that?
I would like to go back to another item.
Okay, do you mind if we finish this discussion, then we'll go back to...
Right ahead.
Okay, let's, before we lose track of this one. So any discussion or input on moving those meetings that fall on holidays or near holidays? So what Lon's suggesting is that they be combined, the work session and the meeting be combined into one meeting for those 2 weeks. And we'd get the word out to the public about that in plenty of time.
Yeah, once the council would approve a change to these schedules, we put it on our calendar right away.
Okay, and maybe especially noted somehow on the website so people are aware that something different is taking place on those weeks.
We'll have another community newsletter between now and then as well.
Any feelings on that from anybody? No? Okay, so they'll come back with their recommendation and, okay.
I don't go to Florida in January.
Okay, so what was the item you wanted to go back to, Councilwoman?
Number 9, please.
9 on
Under administration. This
Under
is the
administration.
confirmation order form for a TV.
Oh, okay, yeah, I'm not sure why that one didn't get started. It was intended to be a discussion item. We've been approached by a company called Webb's Edge that produces a segment for ICMA TV that they only select about 9 to 10 communities a year to do this for. And what they do is they'll come in and do a production that ultimately gets presented at the International City County Managers Association annual conference. And so it shows up, it's broadcast continuously during the event at different locations around the conference center where it's being held, but then it also is broadcast before keynote sessions and things like that to provide profiles of communities. One of the things that this one does, which is very different than a lot of other programs that you'll see that might do something similar, is that at the end of it you have an unlimited permanent license to use it. So unlike ones that might be done by a conventional media company where they retain the rights and you have limited rights to rebroadcasting it, you retain all the rights for it, and you've got then access to all the footage that they take, what they term their B-roll footage, that can be used for other programs or other pieces or segments really at any time. So you've got the kind of captive audience of about 4,500 people that come to those conferences every year between attendees and partners and exhibitors that come in, but then you also have rights to use it going forward. As I said, they don't do this for a very large sampling of communities. Marion was approached about it, and we wanted to have a discussion with the council about potentially moving forward with that. We have talked with partner organizations about potentially contributing to that. They're interested, but don't know it yet at this point how much that could potentially be. So we brought it to the council, thinking that if you were to approve it, it would come out of the reserves for hotel motel tax. That's one of the reasons why we carry a balance out of that fund.
I don't think the city should pay for that. If they contacted, they should pay. My opinion.
Okay. Any other thoughts or discussion on that?
Would it be like a promotional piece that the city can use for attracting businesses in the future?
It's a fully produced promotional piece. I think they're around 6 or 7 minutes long. The key to this one is I think they shoot between 15 and 20 minutes worth of footage, so you have all that other items that can be used for promotional pieces in the future. The reason we're bringing it forward now is if the council approves it, they can actually be here during Swamp Fox and get footage of the community during that event to use as part of the video.
Okay.
Now, I hate to be suspicious about this, but
Go ahead.
you could then use this tape as a part of a resume for another job, right?
I don't own the rights to it. The city of Marion would.
The city of Marion, but how easy would it be to make a copy? See, it's my criminal mind that's working.
I would assume it'd probably go out on YouTube. I mean, that's.
Yeah, they actually have their own site that they'll put out there, and it's available commercially once it's produced.
I just think if we were contacted, then they should be paying for it, not us. We did not make the initial contact. Just my opinion.
And there are the necessary funds in the reserve, in the hotel motel reserve.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have like a example of what they've done in the past on YouTube that we could?
Yeah, we can send that out.
Well, that'd be good.
Yeah.
They can see what it looks like, what the quality is.
Yep.
That video that was made, it was a spoof from the Beatles album where they were walking across the street. Is that one of the things that these people have done?
I don't know if that was particular to this one or not.
No.
You remember that?
Yeah, I was in that one.
Oh, were you?
Yeah.
Were you barefooted?
No, I wasn't doing the Beatles.
Oh.
That was in another part of that video. That was I don't remember what that was for. Was that a chamber?
Yeah, the chamber did one 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, was that the Abbey Road?
Yeah.
They're barefooted to go.
That was. I think this sounds like it's more upscale than that one.
I thought that one was pretty good.
But it was good. I'm not saying it wasn't good.
Well, if you were in it.
If I was in it, yeah, so it was great.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm good.
Anything else on the agenda that's not starred or that you'd like to discuss?
Well, I do have one item, Chief. The honesty of our people amazed me. I have a friend and a former insured who had an old couch he wanted to get rid of, and he put it out on the street corner with a big sign on it that says free. He come home from church Sunday and the sign was gone. So we have people who are honest in our town.
For the mayoral appointments for the airport committee.
Do you want to talk about those?
Is that six? What was the total going to be? Was that going to be?
One on the back.
Oh, my
got
bad.
one on the back
So
side.
7. Was that the total?
Yeah. I have gone through these. My goal is to have a mix of pilots and non-pilots. So in this group, there's 4 pilots, 3 non-pilots. I wanted to have business and people that were in government. I've got 2 people that are that way.
Okay, name who is each of these.
Oh, okay. Well, Bonnie Roth, of course, is a pilot because she flies, she teaches. Craig Reardon is a pilot. Tim Schaefer is a pilot.
John Bender.
John Bender, yeah.
Is a pilot?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay.
And then I wanted someone with government experience and business. So Mike Goldberg, he is the emergency manager for Lynn County, and he essentially the first flood ran the whole thing because the mayor kind of backed out of that. And so I'm talking for Cedar Rapids now. And then Ray Brown, who is the ETSCO CEO. So those guys have lots of contacts. And then, of course, John Bender is he's on the water board. The one that I've had several people call me about, and they're in the room tonight, is Nathan. And that was, the reason that I put him on is that I wanted a developer on here.
He's not a developer.
Yes, he is. He's a land developer.
He's a carpenter.
He's not. He's a land developer. He used to be a carpenter because he built our house. But I wanted a developer on here to help us along with what may have to occur. Now, I want you guys to know that Nathan lives in the Marion Township, not in Marion. And that, of course, he owns the land where the airport extension will go.
Then I think that would disqualify him.
No, not in my mind.
Well, that's
because,
a conflict of interest.
well, how many other conflicts of interest do we have for people on different boards?
Well, Joe, you can't,
How many others have we had on here for conflicts
own
of
land
interest?
that possibly could be purchased for whoever knows how much?
How long, when will that be? 10 years, 15 years?
It's a conflict, in my way of thinking, it's a conflict of interest, and that's the phone calls I'm getting.
Well, not in my mind. In my mind, I think Nate will be a good one, and he was on the past board.
But that was a kind of a temporary type
Well,
thing.
but he was the co-chairman of the past
It was
board.
still a temporary board.
Well, but you guys decide. I want you guys to decide.
It's a seven-member board.
It is.
You know, one person, like here, could be in conflict and not vote on those issues, so
Well, then you've got
The other
could
six
have
have
a tie vote. But I think that these should be voted on separately rather than as a
That's fine. We
unit.
can vote on them separately tomorrow, Thursday.
That's what I think should be done.
That's what I intended to do. But I wanted you guys to know that that's, you know, people in here have been hounding me, I'll say, about this, and, you know, I'm sticking to my guns that I think that he would be a great person to be on this board. So, that's what I think.
I'll say I think it would be great, but I think I agree with Mary Lou that I
Okay.
think it'd be a conflict of interest, just for the fact that, yes, it might be 10, 15 years before that land's purchased for the runway, but if stuff leading up to it, and not saying he would do anything wrong, I have no issues with Nathan whatsoever, just I could see that as a conflict of interest.
It's the perception
It's the perception.
of what is not right.
But has he ever done anything?
No.
No, it wouldn't have to. It wouldn't have to be, but it's just the perception.
Why would you take a person off of something where he would be a great asset to the board?
Well, like I said, it's perception.
Okay. We'll vote on it Thursday. So, with that, I guess we're adjourned. Oh.
I just had one. I know there's been some questions.
Mike.
You know, I talked a little bit about the roundabout project, and we had just acquired the storage garages. That was the last acquisition for the current project phase, which Mike was talking about, which is basically going to be the roundabout, so extending from 13th to about 17th, potentially 19th. Likely utility work will get done this year, and then construction of the concrete and the road project in the spring. We've been knocking this down in phases. There's limited staff to be working on multiple phases at one time. I know there's questions as to why the 6th Avenue corridor isn't completely completed or finished. We've started negotiations with all property owners. We've not ended any negotiations with any property owners. Sometimes we start, sometimes we stop, depending on where the conversations go. Part of the priority is to ensure that we can get it done consistent with our phasing, but there are other priorities include trying to get the pieces that we can as they become available. We're currently working on trying to get additional property where the old concrete plant is, so we're starting that conversation. We've made contact with all the properties that we need acquisitions from. We've not backed away from any of those, and we will proceed with continuing those conversations. Sometimes there's a lull because there's only so much staff time that can be committed to the acquisitions necessary. So we've completed all the acquisitions for this phase. Starting probably late fall, we will be moving into those properties east of 17th Street. And so we've already started most of those conversations. Most of the owners have received our initial notice. Most of them actually received appraisals for their property. So we're working through it. I hope the council understands that. There's no need for us to there's no way for us to complete the rest of the corridor project in one fell swoop anyway. So it is a phasing plan. It takes time to complete. So I hope as you talk to constituents and you understand the magnitude of that project, that there's no part of that that's been on hold or halted. We're just knocking it down in the phases that we've talked about knocking it down in. So I hope there's understanding of that.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yep.
I wanted to add also is that the mayor has had no part of this selection process. He did not know who I had talked to until the names came out on Friday. So he is totally hands-off on this, has not had any dealings, didn't know who I had put on the list or anything, so for obvious reasons. And with that, anyone else? We're done. Thank you.